You're listening to the So Tell Us podcast.
With David Feinberg and Jared McCallie. How was that, David? I like it better this way.
You do?
Just,
You want to just assume that we're doing it?
yeah.
All right.
You guys, you sent some thorough questions. You sent thorough questions.
That's David.
That's our specialty here. I get in the zone a bit, and I creep into people's internet history. And yours, may I say, Rose, yours does not leave anything to be desired. You've got a lot of really interesting, very variant stuff on the internet. Like it's very much, you've got a lot of different things that it seems like you've done.
What's it look like to you? You know, you never get to ask somebody their perspective of what your online entity looks like. What's it look like?
I don't know.
What did you think?
It's actually, it's interesting that you say that, because it was an interesting question of I mean, one of the questions that we were going to ask you here today is about, you seem to have because we're interviewing you today as a comedian, but I mean, that's the thing, is that I think that title doesn't really register with everything that you've done. So, I mean, if we could jump right into it, could you tell us a little bit about that? Like, could you give us a little bit of your performance?
I think everything I do is funny. I think that a lot of what I do, you would laugh at. Somebody could laugh at. So yeah. I think my artwork is funny. I think that there's a, well, you know what? Let's just talk about this piece that's behind me. All right.
Sure.
There's a lot of comedy in like going to a contractor and saying, I'm going to take everything that's broken, and like following a man around and being like, give me everything that's broken. Give me all your like crazy shit. Like, what don't you want? What don't you want? And then, negotiating that and then taking it home and trying to make an art piece out of it. But you would also like cackle with laughter if you saw like a middle-aged woman trying to like scoop up some trash for free so she can take it back to South Philadelphia and put it on her wall.
Did you have like a wheelbarrow? Like, were you just like, what?
You know what I have? I have a Toyota Corolla and a dream. Is what I have. At the time, I had a 1996 Toyota Corolla and a fantasy, and that's all I needed. And I had Washington Avenue, and I had a will, and that was it. But you know what? Like, I guess it's so crazy because if I asked you guys this question, like, you can only have your own interior perspective of like what you're doing, like some of the questions that you were asking me were such a thrill, such a deep thrill, because I didn't recognize these things, or I didn't think, for instance, let me see, hold on, look at this.
Name.
Listen, guys, I take this shit so fucking seriously. Listen, humans, I take your shit so seriously that I like had at it. I was like, what are they gonna ask? What are they asking here? What do I need to create? Like, one of the things you were saying is like my perspective of comedy, or like that it's a different kind of, and I was like, I couldn't get into this, or I couldn't really figure this out, because I'm like, I think it's just what's funny. I think just whatever we're laughing at. Like, I think I'm laughing at the same things everyone's laughing at, like I really like Chris Farley. And I think we all like to laugh at Chris Farley. I think that he's so fucking funny. Like, that's my
say, what specifically, like, because, I mean, I just to sort of jump into it, because I think that a note of your performance style is very much about your own physicality. You seem like someone who is very much in touch with your physical self and how you look on stage, as well as like a lot of your performance elements involve things of like doing things to your body. I was on the We're Pregnant stream the other day, and I was talking to my girlfriend afterwards about it, and I said Rose Luardo last night. Molly Hanulek was painting her face, and Rose Luardo started painting her teeth. So I don't know. It's just something about like the in-depthness that you have like with your own body. Just sort of to get back to the Chris Farley thing. Do you find that physical performance is the thing that really gets you going? Like that, is that something that really is your?
I have an interest. I have an interest. I have a very deep interest in, okay, well, one of the things you were asking me was like, you know, about like performance art. And when I think about how I started performing, many, many moons ago, I found out that there is a dance theater in Philadelphia that was offering this performance art. It was a 3-month-long performance art. I want to call it Workshop Plus. It was a certificate program. It was through Bryn Mawr College. And for 3 months, every single day, you had to go to this dance theater, and they would take you through all these different exercises to like be able to perform in your body. And I don't know if you're familiar with kinesthetics. You ever heard this term before?
Mildly,
so,
like college classes.
Mildly, just tossed around, just sprinkled.
Yeah.
Right,
Around the water,
like some oregano. Just, you know, I know it like I know oregano. It's just like sprinkled on some shit. So it's like it's like learning through the body, or like the nature of moving around, right? So like somebody who practices yoga, let's say, and like really knows what something's supposed to feel like, knows it from inside the body. Clowning is like that. Like the Jacques Lecoq school will teach you to like, so that you know your body comportment from the inside, and like you know what your muscles are doing. There's a Japanese dance form called Buto that you should all do a line of. You should chop a thick line of Buto on a mirror and snort it, because that is some body awareness shit.
Is it an upper or a downer?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Let me see. Okay, hold on. Is it an upper or a downer? You know what? It's almost like, for me, it might be like Special K. Okay. You just feel like you're just frozen with your eyeballs wide open, just taking it all in.
Wow.
The toe is really, really, really slow. A lot of it is super slow, but it's the most intense. Like everything's slow, but everything's like this.
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
So you believe that, so back to that the first point, but do you believe that, because I remember when I was a kid, I really liked Chris Farley. My grandmother would say people aren't laughing with him, they're laughing at him. Like, do you believe that just goes away? I think that too. I think people are just laughing. I think laughing is laughing. I don't think you're laughing at some guy.
Well, you want to know something? Okay, so that's a place that I'm coming from. But when you are a fucking clown to laugh at, they're laughing at you, because you can make them laugh at you, because your body is doing a thing that is laughable, and you know that it's doing that thing. And if you're, you know, this is a sad thing, but the way that your grandmother's kind of talking about that is as if it is humiliating. And there was something a little fucked up about Chris Farley's life. And you know that like epic Saturday Night Live thing that he did with the guy that died of like prostate cancer. His name, not prostate cancer, his name is Patrick Swayze.
Oh, yeah.
You know the Chippendales sketch?
Yeah.
That is so fucking good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But if we take this with your grandmother's perspective, it's also so fucking sad.
Yeah. There's the element of the tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a fat guy. That was a funny, sweaty, fucked up fat guy. I mean, you kind of have to know what your body can do. You have to know what your body does. At some point, you have to be okay with it. You have to be able to laugh at, you have to find the comedy in like your physical body. You know, maybe there's like a little bit of like desperation in that stuff too. I mean, to be honest, I think it's very thuggish, ruggish bone to get into that space. If you can get into that space and like work with that and say and know that people are deeply laughing at you.
Yeah, and I love the Bone Thugs and Harmony reference. That was amazing. But it's the fall up, not fall down. The fall up is funny. The fall down is not funny.
I don't know.
I've just heard that in this art form. It's like it's funnier when someone so like I don't know Chris Farley or Michael Richards who played Kramer. I feel awful just calling him Kramer, but they would go up and then fall instead of going straight down. So when someone falls down, it's awful. When someone falls up and then falls down, it's funny.
Oh, I think it can actually be enjoyable to watch both.
Oh.
And I think if you let yourself, you can laugh at both. Because
Yeah.
guess what? I think that's actually what happens sometimes. We just keep falling down. And so sometimes there's something like a little bit jarring, upsetting, freaky. You don't want to laugh, but you are laughing. You don't want to look at it, but you can't stop looking at it. There's a little bit of train wreckery, and you're like laughing at that too. I think it's a mixed bag. But I think one of them, I really like your grandmother, who's like, we're laughing at him.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just to me, the way that I hear that is that's just straight negative.
Yeah.
And that's not how I feel about it. I think it's a rich porridge. It's like a layered Filipino pudding, and your grandmother needs to taste the flavor.
Well,
She needs to boof it.
But,
You know what I need to do? I need to get to your grandmother's house and like boof it up her ass.
Yeah.
By the way,
I think it was like a warning it was a warning because it was after he died. And then she was like, you know, he died of a drug overdose. And then I was like, this guy's great. She was like, well, you know, like that was the warning in it. But
I gotta say this, that guy's great. Hookers, Catholicism,
sex
cocaine,
workers,
and
please.
everything. The whole fucking thing is the whole thing is perfect. The
I love
whole,
Catholicism.
the
David does
sweat-
not.
The sweaty freaking out on the Tonight Show, the whole thing's fine because that's what was happening. So
I actually want to go off here because I have my own question that I didn't send to you. So I read that you went to NYU and then came to Philadelphia. What made you come to Philadelphia? That just seems like such an interesting move to come to Philadelphia.
So I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My family is here. I was in New York City. I followed the rave. I was super fucking ravey. So I went to New York to like party my dick off. My dick completely fell off. I really liked school. I mean, I thought it was very challenging, but I liked school. And then when I was finished, I was like, well, now I'm in my college town. And this is a really weird feeling because my college town is New York and I could probably just stay here. But I was like, okay, my dad, I don't know if do you guys smell the relationship between me and my dad? I've been taking care of my dad has been a senior citizen for like forever. So he got sick.
Sorry.
I was like,
he's like Steve Martin. He's been like 70 since I'm 12, you know, like.
Yes. So I kind of came here. I was like, I don't know if I want to stay in New York. It's really fucking expensive here. Everybody was telling me, so you guys know, I'm like almost 50. So when I came here, it was 1996.
Wow.
What the fuck? This is what was happening. I was talking to my friends that were here. They were like, you do know that rent is $250. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to cross over that bridge and someone's going to give me like a hooker, a car, free money. The road is paved with gold bullion. I'm like, oh, I'll come to Philadelphia. So I came here. It was so cheap. I got a job working at this place. It's called the Continental. It was one of Steven Starr's first enterprises.
I worked there.
Who hasn't? And that place is
not a lot of people. It's
It's just, I feel like lots of arts people get jobs. Like I feel like a lot of people that we know have that kind of a thing. But nonetheless, I mean, that was sort of like the emerging moment for you, like this sort of like I wondered if we could talk a little bit about that. I'm sorry I feel like I've stopped the whole train, but could you talk a little bit about the artistic?
Throw it in.
Like, what's the artistic, like, I imagine, are you someone who pulls a lot art-wise from the space that you're in, from the city that you live in?
Definitely.
Could you tell us a little bit about that change?
Definitely. Okay, well, you guys know Space 1026. Are you familiar with that art space?
Yep.
That started in 1997. So that was when I was just getting into Philadelphia. I would say I definitely pull from what's around me. And I think a lot of what I do is informed by the people I see here, the conversations I've had here, the places where I shop for my groceries, the Acme supermarket, my next door neighbor, a fight that I get into with somebody about a parking spot. I mean, I think I like human beings. And so I think I like to do a lot of character stuff based on the human beings that are in my world. So I think that the things that you see in Philadelphia are very particular to Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's
You
very
know, like the attitude here, especially in the 90s, was like, it was rough. It was very rough around the edges. It was, and I've been in South Philadelphia for a long time. So, and now I think I'm seeing less of this happen, but when I first moved here, it was very super residential, still is, but lots of older people, lots of people that have been in the neighborhood forever, were born in South Philadelphia, didn't believe you should leave South Philadelphia. If new people came in, they were very suspect. They didn't like you. They put a knife in your tire. They called you a cocksucker. Can we say cocksucker? I've been called cocksucker by a lot. How did you know? I love sucking cock. How did you know?
Did you live on one of those streets? I lived in South Philly for a good amount of time, and you live on one of those streets where you could double park, and like people that's so crazy. And then you could just park next to someone, and then they would just honk their horn at 7 a.m. and you had to wake up and let them out.
Or if you really knew your neighbors, you threw your keys out of the window and they moved your car and then put the keys back.
That is
really your neighbors. I never had it that good, but I do know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I know it well. And it's weird here. It's weird. I don't know if there's cities that kind of shenanigan still goes on.
South Philadelphia is a different world though. It's like, it's just like Italians have just passed down houses for generations. It's just yeah. It's like,
I live in the middle of that. Like my neighbors are living in a house that was owned by their grandparents, their parents, and now they own it.
Wow.
It would actually travel down on the paternal side of the family. And sadly, my neighbor died a couple of years ago, but his wife is still in that house. Now, here's the thing. Her kids or their kids moved to New Jersey. So I think that's ending. And I'm seeing a lot more, I'm seeing change happen in the neighborhood. But like when I was in my 20s and I was here, it was me and a bunch of like older Italian humans.
Wow. So it was cheap then, like that area was like cheaper to move to?
It was free.
Oh.
It was, yes. It was $0. It was, and I had been living in New York.
40 acres and a mule.
So I came here. I'm just going to circle all the way back around and just say, wait, what? Say it again?
Oh, the 40 acres and a mule. Isn't that what people went to California for or something?
I think you froze.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's what was given to you when you were a sharecropper. I was sharecropping South Philadelphia. So when I got here, it was cheap. And my dad was like, kind of on the fritz. He wasn't fully on the fritz, but he was like partially on the fritz. I wanted to, my mom died when I was younger, and I had this idea that I really wanted to like just push my dad all the way, help him hobble to death's door. I was like, I'm down for this. What I didn't understand is that was going to be like 25 years long.
Right.
So I have a pretty rich and meaty, spicy relationship with my dad, who I take care of.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, Jared, you go.
Oh, does he live with you? That was my question.
No, he lives in my childhood home.
Oh, wow.
In the suburbs, in Wynwood.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
All right.
I was going to say, because Rose, I feel like you're someone who, social media presence-wise, and we'll plug it, as we post this interview, but like, you're someone who is very much, I feel like with social media, there's this sort of distance piece where we have the presentational self and we have the very real self and the things that we're sort of, putting forward. And I feel like you're someone who pulls very much away from that. I feel like you're someone who blends those kinds of elements very well. Do you feel like there's something about that? I mean, because social media being a performance, that is, you know, we choose what we put out. Do you feel like in your own performances, we see elements of you personally?
Sure. Sure. Actually, you want to know something? I think that you get to see everybody personally by what they choose to put out there. Like if you see something that's like super, you know, you can almost smell the stuff that's like really manicured, you know? You know that kind of like topiary where like the bonsai tree or like the Edward Scissorhands where it's just like you can
Very much
see people that are pruning the hedges that hard. And I think that that's telling of a person. Like that kind of perfection is also telling about what's going on in somebody's like brain space. But I think that here's the thing, fellas. I think I use social media different than you guys do because I remember like Friendster. I remember MySpace.
Yeah.
I went from the Friendster to the MySpace to the Facebook to the Instagram. I've had many lives in playing with the social medias, and it was like scrapbook. It was like scrapbooking, and so I think I see it as scrapbooking, life scrapbooking.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to say, is that the same sort of approach kind of piece, or do you feel like it's evolved in that way that like you started off with the scrapbooking element? Because I feel like right now, I mean, I've seen you, and if correct me if I'm wrong, and we can edit it out if you don't want it, but I mean, I've seen you like use psychedelics on your social media. I've seen you be with your father while he's in, you know,
How about when I took my dad to the ER and I was on mushrooms?
I remember it very well because I turned to my girlfriend and I was like, look at what Rose Luardo's doing. Like, look at this thing. Could you comment? If you don't want it in, we can totally change the subject, but I would love to hear about your relationship with that kind of a thing.
Dude, that was some nar shit. My dad got really sick. My dad has something that I call bloody butthole. It's like a medical term. My dad like pops a gasket in his asshole and will bleed out of his asshole for like a full day. And then he actually bleeds out of his asshole so much he needs a blood transfusion.
Oh,
his asshole bleeds. I'm like, Dad, it's a fucking 2 depends day, Dad. Your asshole is bleeding. So I had to take him to the ER in the beginning of the COVID season. So that was like, what do we want to say? March, April. My dad's butthole sprung a leak. And I had mushrooms. And I was like, taking my dad to the ER when there's just like COVID fucking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's COVID on this door. There's coronavirus on this seat. And I knew I was going to have to take him to the hospital. And I was like, let me just make this a little bit more fucked up so I can handle it. I'm going to take a fistful of mushrooms. And so I ate the mushrooms, drove my dad to the hospital. That shit fucking kicked in. I smuggled in cake pops for my dad. And I danced around. I think I got caught. I think the fucking nurses knew that I was fucked up. I was like dancing in there and like feeding my dad cake pops and like making him like wave and like dance around with me. And then eventually he was admitted to the hospital and I had to go home. But guess what? I got through that moment. I got him to that ER. I made that trip as fun as I could for both me and my dad. And then I put it on Instagram because like that's what you do.
Wow.
Because now I can go back and look at it and I can be like, oh my God, remember when I had to do this? I'm like, oh my God, remember this? Oh my God, remember tripping in the ER? Oh my God.
It's such a wild story to hear, especially when you said that to make it more tolerable, you were like making it a little bit more fucked up. And it's very interesting to hear that kind of an element to it. In terms of, not just in terms of like psychedelics or like the world of psychedelia, but do you feel like the world of abstraction, like based in that kind of a thing, it's very interesting to hear what you pull from that and what kind of like solace you sort of, it sounds like you take in that world. Would you care to comment on that kind of a thing, or like maybe not solace, but the law that you pull?
Okay, ready? This is a thing. This is a belief I have.
Mm-hmm.
This is a belief I have. You have to get comfortable with the shit that is insane. You have to get comfortable with really fugly things that happen in life. And you have to turn that frown up. So you got to take it to McDonald's. You got to turn that frown upside down. You have to get so comfortable with things that are upsetting and scary and painful and desperate and dark and depressing. I don't know. You have to navigate that space. Sometimes I like to get things really crazy as a means of being in a crazy space and like working through it.
Do you think that just to add a follow up here, do you think that like you taking on, as you said, taking on your father and his caregiving, do you think that prepared you? I asked that because when my mother passed away, everything else that came along was almost like someone would be like, my car won't start, and I would just be like, okay, you know, like you're gonna have to figure this out. There's way more above this, you know. So
there is way more above this. There is a whole twilight zone. But you want to know something? You don't know that until you have that kind of a loss.
Yeah.
You don't know that until like your mom dies.
Yeah.
You don't know that until like you grieve hard for something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then I think it opens up a more complicated, flavorful experience of living.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place where I'm like, well, when I was so fucking scared when I had to take him to the ER that I was like, I'm going to make it 1 inch scarier and fuck this whole thing up. And it's going to be
amazing,
delightful. But I kind of, you know, I've done mushrooms before and I knew what the experience was going to be. And I was like delighted. And I was like, I'm just going to go with it. What are they going to do? What the fuck are they going to do? Maybe they're going to admit me to the hospital. Like, what are they going to do? I'm going to like sing to my dad and we're going to like wear mittens and like eat chocolate and like laugh. And I'm going to make this pleasant.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that you also called it a fistful of mushrooms. And the whole time I was thinking that would be a great skit where it's like fistful of dollars, but just fistful of mushrooms. You just do a scene from that on mushrooms.
People touching the walls.
I like that you know fistful of dollars.
That spaghetti westerns. That's yeah.
It's lost. You might be one of the few people that like really knows.
My parents were weird. They always like watched, what was that, TMC, the show. So it was like they just watched that or like like Gilligan's Island. But I just think it was because my dad remembered episodes. He's like, hey, watch this part. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I remember that all the spaghetti westerns, The Quiet Man, all that stuff. But
that shit's good.
It's above my pay grade, but yeah, it's good.
Wild to think about it. I'm reinterpreting all of these things of like, especially with working in an uncomfortable space, because I was thinking about way that it seems like you work on stage. And I'm going back to, you have a very good video. If people want to check out your work after this, I would say that you have a great video from Frog Night where you did a performance of Lady Luck. That was very interesting to me because and I've seen this in many of your performances. My girlfriend saw Queerbait many months ago, and it was very much about, you are so comfortable with being in the audience, with the audience, that very much that fourth wall has a big set of, it breaks down in a lot of ways, but it seems like that's your comfort zone in a huge sense. Like, is that your ideal piece? Is it sitting in there and being like, here I am with you, let's experience this fucking crazy thing together, and bringing people to that space? I mean, is it about that in your eyes?
Okay. So as a performer, you guys are performers, comedy people, funny bones. Bum bum bum.
Sorry.
You like, you know how you have like shit that you do? You're like, this is shit that I do. Here's the thing I do. That's a thing I do. That's like, okay, sort of like that body awareness or that like mental, like that's the thing I want to do. It makes sense to go there. It makes sense to like get all like fucked up and then like creep into the audience. That's kind of like thrilling. That's kind of a thing that I would want to see. That's a thing that would entertain me. If some like crazy middle-aged bitch was like crawling on the floor and like, I don't know, trying to put hand cream on me or something, I'd be like, yes, I want to see this. That's not every day. I paid $5 for this. It was worth it. This is what, and it also is like, it feels very immediate and alive and different. Like as if something from the TV was like coming through the TV and could all of a sudden be in your living room. It just kind of, I think it feels that, or in my mind's eye, I want it to feel that way when I interact with the audience. That like the thing came off the stage. And also a sense of like, what the fuck's gonna happen now? Maybe anything can happen. Look under your seat. Like check, look up. Like, well, I don't know, what's like, check in my bag. Where's my shit? Is my shit still here? Like, I don't know. It's like exciting to think like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
It's amazing how almost like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you are like what's behind you. You are so intricate, but at the same time so spontaneous. It's awesome. Like you like, you're like steps ahead. It's awesome. Like you have queerbait, and I remember seeing a thing for queerbait and seeing how it was spelled out, and I was like, I just thought that was like this slur. I didn't understand it was bait. You know what I mean? And just using that like, I don't know, it's just intricate to me to what you used it for and how you do your comedy, how you perform. It's really, really, really cool. Let
me ask you a question. Do you think that anything you've ever seen me do is like stand-up? Do you think that I could take what I do and translate it into a stand-up experience? Like, could you imagine me going to Helium open night? Can you imagine going to an open mic at Helium, and you show up, and then like I try and do 3 minutes? Like,
100%.
I could see you doing it, and I think that because it would be so crazy that you would just love it all the more. I can see you knocking over fucking sticky tables at Helium and like loving it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's like one of these places that I would go. There was a lady who was like whatever age, and that was like her thing. But I think it's like that to me isn't the thing. It's like it's what to me stand-up is like what stands out about you. You know why? That's why like people make fun of white men in stand-up, because there's so many of them. It's like this is the next, you know what I mean? So when it's somebody different, you want to see that. It's like that guy, what's his name? Fluffy? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Fluffy, the comedian? He's like a big guy, you know what I mean? And then or Ralphie May, somebody like that comes out on stage.
Gabriel Iglesias?
Yeah, Gabriel Iglesias.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But someone like that comes out on stage. You just coming out, I think that's something right there. You know what I mean? And then you're so spontaneous. If you just did crowd work, like David was saying, it could be, stand-up is pretty, would it be, like, subjective. You know what I mean? It's like, some people go and they want to hear the da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? And some people,
they do. I feel like that it's really, I mean, I don't really like move in that world, but to me, I had this feeling that it's like very formulaic, you know?
I
like
want you to move in that world. I want to see it. I'm going to be honest.
I'll do wild. Yeah.
I feel like what we see here, like if you go to Helium, there's a certain kind of show you're going to see there, and it's going to be, jokes that you worked on, and the timing was this, and the setting was this, and I like the structure of the joke is different. When I say different, I mean a little more mathematical, a little bit more of like a formula approach to like making the joke, like a little more Seinfeldy, a little more like that kind of thing. And I don't think I know how to. I shouldn't say I don't know if that's a language that I speak firsthand. I think I'd have to really. Shit, I don't even know if I could make jokes like that. I don't know.
It would be cool to see you do it as a piece, though. Like maybe not go to Helium, you know what I mean? But just like if you did that as like, what do people call them when they're trying to be kind of skits? How are your skits going? Like that kind of like, you know what I mean?
I think you guys are right, though. I think a lot of things can live in a stand-up space.
Yeah. Oh, I meant that in the way of like people say it to me. They're like, "How are your skits?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing skits." You know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
someone walks out of a tool shed and asks
yeah,
you how you're.
Yeah. So I'm like,
That's
Lives
fucking great.
out.
Or my skit. Oh, that's good.
Who am
But
I
like my skits are so good. My plays, my short plays that I'm doing by myself. Listen, the first act of my short play that I'm doing by myself for you right now is going so well. Aunt Susie, it's going fucking great. When I started to do, okay, so here's the thing. I was just kind of doing this shit in an art space before I started working with Andrew Jeffrey Wright. And he and I did this thing called Comedy Dreams that we probably did in like 2011, 12, 13, 14, maybe even earlier than that, 2010. But anyhow, long story longer, I wasn't like calling it comedy. I was just calling it like, I don't know, performing and arting, gallery comedy art, gallery.
You know what's interesting though, Rose, is we just interviewed Matt and Jackie, and you guys have Incredible Dreams, which is you and Andrew Jeffrey Wright, and then Matt and Jackie. And we were talking to them, and one of the most interesting things that they told us about was that when they were paired with you, when you guys created that, what I would only call an experience, it got, instead of having people be like, this is fucking funny, or like, this was really good, people would be like, we're giving you guys reviews that were like art reviews in a lot of ways. So it just brought in this like interesting spicy mustard on top of the whole thing of like.
Well, I think people were looking at it like it was supposed to be like real theater. And you sometimes when you make something, you have no idea how somebody's going to see it or approach it or talk about it. So, but yeah, that was a funny thing. And we were kind of making fun of the Fringe Festival, and we were kind of making fun of avant-garde theater and experimental theater. We were like, the first thing we did, it was 20 minutes of this really esoteric dance piece for like one short bad joke.
Do you remember the joke?
Yeah, it was, where is the mustard? Like we're dancing, and we each say one word. So I think Jackie said where, Matt said is, Andrew Jeffrey Wright said the, and I said mustard. Where is the mustard? And then we're like, oh, there it is. And then it completely turned into like a different show. But a lot of people that saw it were like, I don't know what the fuck this is. This is. There's a lot of people that saw it were like Fringe Festival people, and Fringe Festival people from like 7 years ago, which was a different crowd then.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that though. I do like that, like, what the fuck am I watching? And then you go home and you're like, I like that. You know what I mean? Like that.
You would be like, I hated that. Oh, yeah. I hated that. Oh, I suffered for 20 minutes when I was watching them do that. I think that's, in a really weird, fucked up way. I'm like, good. Did you hate it? Good. And you were trapped and you couldn't get up to move because you didn't know what the fuck to do. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's called improv.
Sometimes. Oh God, improv. Oh God bless. God bless you, improv. I hate improv and I will constantly do it. I fucking hate it. But I will always, once I was offered a free class and I was like, I hate improv. Yes, I will take your free class. And I took it and I did it and I hated it. But I like to do things I don't like sometimes.
I like that. That's a cool method.
I was going to say, like, are there like formats that you don't like within this question, but are there like, just like looking back on maybe let's try to garner it down to just Philadelphia history. Have there been performances that you were like, that is my dark horse? I can't believe that not everyone is looking at that and being like, I can't, like, that should be our new standard. Like, or something that really just like blew you out of the water. Anything come to mind like that?
Let's see how I try to answer this question. Okay, you know what? I really, really liked Matt and Jackie's prank show that they did for $5 Comedy Week a couple of years ago. Did you guys happen to catch that?
I don't think I saw that.
I did not.
Tell us a little bit about it. What really resonated with you?
I liked, well, first of all, I think I like that it's a prank show. it's a prank. But then it was a prank show, and that the things were happening in places that I know, like the Ruby Tuesdays or like the Applebee's. And then that the commitment to how like crazy it got. Like they do a prank where Matt serves Jackie divorce papers at like the Ruby Tuesdays, and it's so fucked up. Like nobody knows what to do. Like the waitress is like freaking out. Like it's really crazy, and then it goes on for like a long time. And it's a Ruby Tuesdays that like I can go to and be like, this crazy, funny, fucked up thing happened here. They had a pizza guy deliver a pizza, and they like made him part of the show. And he was like up on stage delivering a pizza, but like on the stage with the pizza. I'm like, this is fabulous. I really, really love that. I don't know if you know this artist, but her name is Alex Tartarsky. Are you familiar with her?
She sounds a little bit familiar.
She's in the like art clown, pig iron, Jacques Lecoq, like French clown school training, neutral mask. Like she is a, if and when, because you should see it, when you see her work, it's like next level, bizarre clown stuff. She has something. So she goes in between New York and Philadelphia, and she's got something on Instagram now that she's doing called Quar Hovel. And she has a room full of trash, and she tries to read fortunes by like picking up all this trash and like throwing it down in front of her, and then speaking in this sort of like Russian accent, like Madame Zelda, like tells your fortune. And it's bizarre and really funny, and really she's really, really committed. And she had a show, I think it was called American Psychobabble, that she did a couple of years ago at the Fringe Festival, and it's fucking incredible. There is somebody who knows how to work their body. There is somebody who's like really in their body, and it's like electrifying. So check it the fuck out.
Okay.
I think she ate a bag full of ketchup. I watched her eat a bag full of ketchup. That's the commitment level I'm looking for. When someone like Julia Selly eating mayonnaise.
Yes, I was gonna say that was a performance. I remember I asked Julia after that series of Darlings shows. I said, I was like, have you been like preparing for this in some way? And she was like, I love mayonnaise, and I try to run every single day, because if not, I will die. And I was like, what an insane, like, to rearrange your whole fucking, I mean, it's not a glacial shift, but just like that she was like, because that was every night of the fucking week or something like that.
She ate a thing of mayonnaise. No, she didn't eat the whole thing, but she ate a lot of mayonnaise.
A whole bunch of it, yeah.
I believe she vomited a few times.
Oh.
Commitment.
So I have a question that is off the paper here, but so in stand-up for David and I, there'd be times where someone will go on stage and they're fairly new, and they're trying to like push a certain narrative, or you know what I mean, you can tell where their stand-up is coming from, things like that. So in the community that you're in, some people, like you said, they don't know what they're watching, blah 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 kind of deal. Do you ever see someone who goes up and you're like, they're not that person, they're acting to be that person, like there's like the natural vibe to it? Do you ever see that?
No, but can you tell me more about it?
Okay, so like I'm saying, like you write a joke and someone's like, oh, that's a good joke, and then someone writes a joke and it's like not that great of a joke. You're like, okay, that person needs to work on it. So in the community that you're in, what I'm saying is, like, for lack of a better word, people would be like, this is what alt or whatever, or different things like that. Do you see someone go up? So you just said someone ate a jar of mayonnaise. You see someone go up and they're like doing something, and you're like, this is forced. This doesn't feel like in the moment. It doesn't feel real, kind of deal.
Sure.
Okay.
I think shit, I've seen a lot of people do that for a moment. I mean, if you watch enough, I think that everybody has a moment like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some performers that like live in that a little more. And sometimes I'm like, why are you performing? Or why are you doing this? Or do you like this? Or is this fun for you? Or are you enjoying this? Or like, what's really going on here? There's some people that I've seen them do stuff, and I feel like it was more of a intellectual choice. Like, I think I'm going to start to do this. I'm going to join this scene, and I'm going to here's what I'm gonna go to the open mic night and I'm gonna make the comedies and I'm gonna say the things, but it's not like of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what do you do? What is that? And what are you thinking about that? May I ask you, what do you think of that?
I think it's I don't think it's a Mel Brooks quote. I think it's somebody else. What Mel Brooks say, it's like, or you got it or you don't. It's obviously not good.
What if you want it? What if you want it? What
Yeah,
if you're,
that's the other
I want
thing.
it? Then ready? Maybe that's a whole fucking thing of somebody who just wants to do it so badly that they just keep getting. How about the people that don't? Have you ever seen this one where it's really not of them, and they're also, because it's not of them, they are not good at it, and they just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. But that's the other thing. There's so many stand-ups or comedians who would be like, it takes 10 years to get great. And it's like, but there's people who wrote a joke second year in who are doing it at 10 years. They're just learning, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's like, sometimes you can be very awful and keep going and going and going and going, and then it works. And then sometimes
you can be very awful and still be very awful.
Yeah.
15 years in.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Is this bringing you joy? Are you happy doing this? How about this? Right. How about people that just want a scene? How about people that just are like, I want to like be in a club. I'll join this club. I'll go to these like, because you know what? This scene is like kind of friendly. If you kept going, just like anything, if you kept going to the same bar, someone's going to say hi. You're going to make a friend, right? And I think that comedians, I mean, I have some folks in like more of the, to do more straight stand-up that I've known for, I'm not like, you know, I'm not like scissoring them or anything. We're not doing this, but we're like close enough that I could call them for something, ask them a question, like have a nice conversation with them when I see them out. Some people are looking for that feeling. And I think that being a performer or doing comedy is maybe a way for them. I think that people are doing this stuff for lots of different reasons. And sometimes it's not really who you are and you just want to force it to work. And that's a very interesting space to be in. Because I'm thinking of somebody actually right now that I say to myself when I see this person perform, I'm like, I don't know why you're doing this. I do not, none of this is fucking hitting. None of this is hitting. The carpet wants to get up and leave. The walls want to get up and leave because this is so fucking wild. And this person will just be going at it with maybe not much of an awareness of like what's happening between them and the audience.
Yeah. I mean, David is awful.
Fuck you, man.
I had to. Sorry. That was a good in.
I mean, can I say something? Jared, am I answering your question or am I in the space?
I don't think there's I think they're 100%, but I don't think there's a definite answer. I just think that it's like a different world that I don't know, different worlds you want to be a part of. So I want like a little bit of in for yours, you know, and it makes sense. It's just like, sometimes I don't know the difference. If I, like you were talking about the mayonnaise thing, if I saw somebody just eating mayonnaise, I'd be like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? But then to someone else, it's something completely different, you know?
That's why this fucking podcast works, though. That's why this podcast works. Because I saw that, I laughed my fucking ass off. Jared would see that, he wouldn't like it. But we've got friends that do things that I'm like, what the fuck? What is that? And then Jared's like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. That's why we're married, which is very exciting.
Oh, the flavors. You know, I have a friend that does more like traditional stand-up. And I don't get it, but that's one of my best friends. And they are, in Philadelphia. Really, you guys know Charles?
Yeah, Charles Bliznick.
Fucking love Charles. And he is, you've seen him perform? Mm-hmm. He's the opposite of me.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that he's one of those people that I feel like understands both worlds as they come together. He's very much someone who can live in those two sort of interesting headspaces where it's like, I would call his stuff traditional. Yeah. He's just up there telling jokes, but he's a respected comic at Good. He's a respected comic at Helium. He, moves around very freely. And he's just someone that, just to get back to the points that we were making, that both of you were saying, is that like, he is someone that is so comfortable with his voice and in his body.
Oh my God.
I once like ran into Charles like on an elevator, like away from a performing space or whatever, like while he was at work, and he was just like, oh, hello. Like he's very much like comfortable and aware of himself. I don't know. I hope
he moves
yeah,
freely in these different spaces. I really like that you said. I feel that way about him myself. Like he's just always who he is, no matter where he is.
oh, he's
on performing, and he's not uncomfortable with different kinds of like performers. He's very friendly to like everybody. He's all inclusive. He's radically inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
The other, you have nice words for people. You know that you say very nice things about
compliment people. Well, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you compliment well, and you know what? Let's turn that table, David. What do you think?
Yes, I have actually. You know what? Oh my God, Jared, you son of a bitch! You handed that to me on a silver platter. That's why we got you here, baby. All right, so Rose, a portion of our show that we do is we talk. We love to talk to our our interview subject about what they've been doing, the things that they like, all that, just sort of a natural flow of conversation. But what we also like to do is speak to some people, a frequent collaborator often, or someone that appreciates your work really well. And this one, I'll read the quote first, and then I'll tell you who it's from. It's Rose is a magnetic mother of my heart. It is a true blessing from heaven to call Rose my main collaborator. Her onstage energy is absolutely magnetic, and the way she works is contagious. Rose is absolutely fearless on stage and off. She approaches her art with her life with a bravery I look up to. And that's a quote
Shannon
from
Fahey.
Shannon.
I knew it.
Of course. And
the way that sounds like Shannon.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Right?
That
and
beautiful.
she
I wrote
really
that for her. You know how I know? I wrote that for her. I wrote it. Of course, I know that one. I know my own language. So yes. So I wrote that about myself, and had her email that to you guys. And
well, that's the thing, is that I love what she said, and I feel like it does summarize so many things that we've talked about today. Just like your magnetism is so fantastic. The work that you do is very contagious. Your fearlessness, both off stage and on stage, are fantastic. And then that you approach your life with, really what the word that I think that both Jared and I have been struggling for is that your work shows an incredible bravery in so many ways.
Damn.
It's absolutely wonderful.
I'm not curing cancer, guys, but thanks a lot.
You never
I'm
know.
not tightrope walking, guys, but
Laughter's
thanks a
the best
lot.
medicine.
Laughter is the best medicine.
And you know what? I'm going to add something to that. Probably one of the most photogenic comedians I've ever seen.
What? You kill a camera, Rose.
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah. I was looking at your website that you guys can check out that we'll link. But yeah, I was like, wow, these are really great photos.
Well, when it's a photo, you can take 3 gajillion of them and then like pick the best one.
I know, but you've seen stand-up photos. Everyone's just like, like
oh my God,
an audio podcast.
Okay. I kind of hear you. And you want to know something? I wish I could do a thing where I could help my comedy friends like get their best physical thing going on. Because a lot of my comedy friends like won't enter into that glamorous space of drawing your freckles. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, let me draw some freckles. I'm like, I want to help them get comfortable with the best physical being that they can be.
Yeah, no, it's true. In stand-ups, it's like the headshots are so funny. It's like you're trying to be yourself and entertain people on stage, and then it's like, I guess I'll buy a leather jacket. It's like that's not even you.
Putting on a hat.
Yeah,
a hat that
hat.
Never worn.
But again, I love to think about this. I'm like, why did you think that's what you were supposed to do? Oh, because that's what you've seen people do for a million years. Absolutely. Well, I guess it's what I'm supposed to do. Oh shit, I guess it's what I'm supposed to do. You don't have another like framework to work in, like I don't know. I guess like if I was going to take people's headshots, I'd take I'd have to hang out with them all day and take a series of shots of them like all day, like eating breakfast, lying down, first thing in the morning. I'd stand over them with a camera and wait for them to open up their eyeballs, because maybe that would be a funny picture. So, but can I tell you, I love taking funny pictures. Obviously, I'm like, Shannon, here's a good idea. Let's put on clown makeup and get in a milk bath. And then have someone we don't know take a picture of us for 5 hours. That's a good idea.
That was a great photo, though. I really liked it.
Isn't it, with like the doll parts and like Shannon and I in that like funny milk bath?
Yeah. She's amazing too. I watched her do TJ Hurley's show once, and basically you defend a really crappy song. I don't know if you know that show.
Yes.
And
I love
great
that
show, great concept. And she just did it was a Clay Aiken song. She just danced the entire time to a PowerPoint. It was amazing. So I can see like the energy of both of you have a very similar energy. I really like
Shannon and I met Good used to have a show called Darlings, R.I.P.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Shannon because we were cast to be on that Darlings thing. And Shannon is so good at like knock knock. She's like, Rose, I have an idea. Let's do this. She has a lot of really good ideas, and she's very good at getting people to like go along with her energy. And that's how she and I started. And she comes from a very different space than I do. She is a like trained dancer. I love dancing.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of training. But Shannon is someone who like, just comes at this with like a very different, like she went to theater school, so she has more acting training, but she knows what she does well. And I've heard many people comment about that performance that she did on Justify Your Love.
Justify Your Love, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then like they did a best of, like Good does this thing where like they do like I guess it's like every year on the day that they open, so for their birthday they have everyone do like a 5-minute like a little bit of their show, and TJ had Shannon do hers because it was so good.
Oh wow, that is great. Yeah, it was mind-blowing, I'll be honest with you.
Part of what you guys do is that you ask somebody to give a quote about the person that you have on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody that I can give a quote about that you want to have on?
I don't want to make too many promises, but I think that we're going to have Shannon on in a very soon, like future episode. Yeah.
And she did mine, and I don't want to do. Wait, maybe you should make me do somebody I don't know. You should make me do investigative research on somebody I don't know at all.
Oh, that is a good idea. How's your relationship with Christ?
Yes.
Have him
yes,
on.
who it is.
Wait, who is it? Who did you say, Jared?
I just said, how's your relationship with Christ? We're going to have him on.
Oh, it's fucking the Lord and I. That's somebody I'm scissoring. When you were wondering, who do you scissor? Who do you scissor mentally? It's Christ. You're like, who? You're like, Rose, like, who are you in a lesbian scissor sisters relationship with? And I would say, Christ.
Oh my God.
So I could give a quote. I could tell you what Christ's pussy smells like. So I could do that.
Oh my good God.
Christ's pussy is delicious. It's fucking great. It's great.
We gotta call it there. That's the end of it. All right, guys. Rose, we want to thank you so much for being here. You were such a wonderful person to talk to. You speak with incredible enthusiasm, and the things that you create show your commitment to such wonderful work. And we were both so honored to have you here today. So really, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
You guys. Thanks.
This has been So Tell Us podcast with David Feinberg and Jared McCallie. Thanks for listening.